Paul Martier, welcome back. Good evening. It is now 4:30. We're nearly at the end of the day for TWTV. Very sad. It's been a very cool day. I've been your host for the afternoon. I'm David, but earlier today we had a much better host, Francis Valentine. Superb, did an amazing job. And in this final session, though, of the day, I've got one of, literally and figuratively, New Zealand's most colourful tech figures. It's not a problem with your screen. Her hair is that colour. I think you're the deputy chair. What are you? The head of development or something for Agritech NZ. I should have looked that up beforehand. Head of growth and transformation manager for Agritech NZ. It's Kylie Horomia. Kylie, don't talk because I'm going to introduce you.
Okay.
No, you talked. That's it. Interview's over. We want to talk a little bit about this session's about the. I love this. The okay, the great, and the absolutely fabulous. Not the good, the bad, and the ugly. The okay, the great, and the absolutely fabulous of the agri-tech sector in New Zealand. As mentioned multiple times today, the agri-tech sector is our oldest technology sector. It is the most interesting, important, I don't know, everything. It's wonderful. You would say this.
Yes.
And Kylie has had over 20 years in communications. She started when she was 2. And over 10 years in the agricultural sector, most notably with Turner's T&G Global, and the Auto Grow, who's an automation specialist, and recently digital technology specialist way beyond. But she's just retired from that to go into this new or this sort of reformatted role in Agritech New Zealand. Agritech New Zealand is one of the subgroups of NZ Tech. They look after, of course, new technology in the agricultural sector. We're going to talk about that. Kylie's on the executive council of that. She's part of the industry transformation plan, the ITP. This is the digital one. There's a similar one for Agritech. And she's done lots of cool stuff, basically. I could keep reading, but instead I'd like to talk. Kylie, kia ora, welcome.
Kia ora.
Tell us, do a better job than me of telling us about you. Where are you from originally?
I think you did well. I dropped my age and I got a promotion all in
It's
in
awesome.
line. It was
Great.
amazing.
Mic drop. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, tell us about your history. How did you come into this sector role?
Oh gosh, it was pretty cool actually. I was doing, like everyone does, you start with tourism.
Yep.
Quite a long time ago. Loved it. Actually, my dream job at the time was to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
Nice.
Or NZTE.
Okay, wow.
So it's quite ironic that I now work with them.
That's good.
Which is beautiful. And then I was a teacher for 10 years actually, comms to postgrads, refugees, undergrad students. So that's my love of communications and
good.
PR. And then I discovered agriculture and worked out that legitimately it is the best industry to be involved in. It is food.
Yeah.
It is what New
Food's
Zealand
good.
does. I was about to swear that really, really well. Yeah, I beeped myself.
Yep.
It's what we're excellent at, and I think there is just so much opportunity that we can do. And, for a large proportion of my career was focused on the sort of growing side. And then for the last 7-8 years, it's been on the technology side. So it is legitimately the marriage of those two things together, which I think is,
Well, some people, when they think about agriculture, they don't think about technology. They think about farmers out in their fields, muddy boots, maybe a tractor.
Yeah.
But you're talking about agri-tech as if it's some sort of much more magical thing.
It is.
Give us, what's your definition of agri-tech for a start, or
So
examples maybe?
Yeah. Examples are much better. So yes, you are talking necessarily about tractors, but not your old school tractor. I mean, you could have tractors now that drive themselves, that use, GPS and satellites and pretty much do everything that they need to do. A lot of the, because we're a member association, so a lot of our members do a lot of software development, mobile apps, things that do really, really cool stuff. One that I have been raving about recently is a small company in New Zealand, 2 years old, called Maxo Technology.
Maxo,
M-A-C-S-O. And I hadn't, they're a member of ours, but I hadn't really sort of dived into what it is they do. And I went and I was just blown away. I mean, they do the Dr. Dolittle of tech. They've created this, that's how I describe it, that's probably not how they do.
Yeah.
But they created this microphone that listens to pigs talking to each other.
Stop it.
Yeah.
It's a pig translator.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I've just wanted one of those.
I know, but
Animal farm.
it listens for the difference between a squeal and a cough. So a squeal's good, a cough is not, because it's health. It's actually an early health warning.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, they put these microphones through, the data gets pulled, the AI does magical stuff, and it essentially tells them the health of their piggery, their farm.
Really?
All these sort of things.
It's got a big brother of pigs, and it's sort of listening in on all the pig
on the
conversations.
noises. Yeah.
And if the oink's a bit wrong,
Yeah.
then
they're in trouble.
they're in trouble.
Yeah, pretty much. And, you know, and then they're exploring things like all your senses, you know, smell and touch and things like this. And
they're not putting the smell ones in the pig thing, are they?
No,
Okay, good.
no. That one's slightly different.
Okay.
It differentiates between, you know, like perfumes or cigarette smoke or vaping or things like that.
Right, yeah,
So
okay.
it's not purely in agriculture.
Bionic nose technology.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
New Zealand company, 2 years old. You know, there are so many amazing things happening behind closed doors that we don't know about. And I think sometimes the missing link is actually the story piece.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if
You've got a widget, great widget, but no one cares about it.
Yeah, no one knows.
If you said it's like that story you just said there, if it's, we've got a pig sensing for audible response in pig, it's boring. But we tell a story of like pigs talking to each other, comes to life.
Yeah.
Like Babe, the movie.
Yeah. And, you know, that experience for me gave me one of the sort of tips that I actually want to share with people.
Yeah, you've got 3 tips.
Yeah, I do.
You've got 3 tips. Well, now's your chance.
Yeah.
Let's
so
tip
this
number
is
1.
one. This is the first one.
It's the tip 1. Okay, good.
But because it's related to Maxo, and it is actually about creating champions that can advocate on your behalf.
Right.
And, you know, often businesses are so focused on the customer, talking to the customer, talking to the investor, talking to the customer.
You should be talking to the pigs.
Well, exactly. But it's more around talk to the people that can share your story that are inadvertent. I'm not a customer of Maxo. I'm not going to buy their product. But this was 2 weeks ago, between then and now,
you've probably told
the amount of people I have told the Maxo story to is phenomenal. And I've just told a whole bunch more.
You have.
And I also told a Chilean delegation that was in town. You know, I mean, and I didn't mean to, but it was so cool.
It's so stuck in your mind, that particular story, that you want to keep passing it on.
It's stuck in my mind.
What was your tip? So create champions
that can advocate on your behalf.
That's really good. And they're the sort of cheapest form of advertising because you're not paying them.
No.
Nice.
I need to talk to them about that. But you know,
they'll give you some free product.
I did get paid in cake because it was a birthday, but you know.
Nice.
But it is one of these things where we forget those around us that could actually be really useful in that journey and telling that story.
Yeah, and you've worked in communications for a long time. You still do in many ways. Communications is not all formal. It's not all like PR releases and press and stuff. It's actually every conversation or every story that gets told about your business. Is it on brand? Is it telling the story that you want to tell?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a lot of people, which segues into my second point,
I set you up.
Terribly so, you did,
Yeah.
is that sometimes they're not prepared to tell their story.
Right.
And the amount of, it's usually some startups, but I've seen it in some growth stage businesses where I'll say, oh God, that's an awesome product. Let's have a look at your website. And the website is absolute custard.
Right.
Or,
that's a polite way of saying it's not very good.
Yeah. Or I might say, hey, can you send me your logos or some imagery? And they send me a thumbnail like this big.
Yeah, because that's the only one they've got off the image generating site that they built it on,
because they haven't looked at their logo or they haven't got their value proposition or their story down.
Or a picture of the founder or the backstory for the business.
Exactly, because they have been focused on building the product.
Yeah.
But the problem is when they need investment, they go and talk to the investor.
Yeah.
The first place they're going to look is their website. You know,
it's your front door.
Yeah, or where are they talking? So be prepared to tell your story, I think, is actually
nice.
You know, one of the big ones for me personally, as number 2 in that piece.
Don't go to number 3
I won't.
Yet. I want to tease it out.
Yeah. No.
A few minutes ago, I want people to be sitting on the edge of their seats, desperate to find out what is tip number 3 from Kylie.
I need to remember what it is now.
I hope you wrote it down because I'm really selling it for you.
Yeah.
This is me. I'm being a champion. What's your first one? I'm being a champion.
Yeah.
In your experience, you've worked in the New Zealand agritech sector for a while.
Yes.
It's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
It seems to be doing pretty well. Like we've got a really good diversity of companies. We've got some deep tech on-farm stuff. We've got some post-production stuff. We've got some data stuff. What's the secret to the industry's momentum at the moment?
I think I think it's got momentum now because it does have government support, which is helpful. I would personally say it needs more.
Yep.
But and we're also really good at it. It's primary industry.
Yeah.
If it's not like we're talking about a product that we don't know anything about, because New Zealand has a history of all the things that are involved in tech. So, if anything, I would say we're actually late. Why would we not?
We're late to our own party.
Yeah, given how much we're really good at growing, beef, sheep, dairy, and horticulture.
Grass, basically.
Yeah.
We're good at growing.
Why have we not, up until, really made a focus on the tech to do those things?
Yeah.
And other countries aren't as slow. Australia, we were recently at the Evoke Ag conference in February. Australia is just caning it.
Yeah.
They have got massive input and investment and funding into it, but they're just pushing forward. And, once upon a time, I would say that we would have been ahead of them.
Yeah.
But I think, if we
can't rest on our laurels.
No, I think if we take too long,
lawns. Yeah.
we'll be watching their dust.
It's really interesting because, as you said, I've been said it a couple of times today, New Zealand's original tech industry was the agricultural industry. 1,000 years ago, when the Polynesians arrived and became the Māori, they created technology to help them grow different crops and things. But the rest of the world, as you say, is now moving into vertical farming, precision fermentation, 3D printed meats, etc., etc. Part of New Zealand's both our massive benefit, but also a challenge is we have an enormous farm we live on. We've got fantastic natural resources. Our farming systems have grown in a different way than other parts of the world, but the technology that underpins them has made them very productive. But it ain't necessarily what the rest of the world is doing these days.
No, and I remember asking an agriculture consultant a few years ago, why did he think that more farmers and growers weren't adopting more technology for like water, and water consumption and stuff? He said, because we have a lot of water and we have a lot of land.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing. But I mean, it's pretty clear, the recent cyclone and storm activity, it gets broke.
It gets broke by the slash coming down from the forestry. But anyway.
So I think it's, if anything, that's a signal for us to actually be looking at what are we doing, how are we growing, how are we farming, and then what tech can actually support.
Yeah, completely agree.
Because it doesn't do it for you, but it supports the farmers and growers to do it really, really well.
Yeah. If only we had another tip that was able to help us.
The last tip?
Yeah, the final of the 3 tips.
Final of the 3 tips?
Triptych of tips that you've got for us.
So you'll love this one.
Okay.
It is to, and it's quite an old school one, but it's to be authentic and not humble.
I learned how to be authentic. Oh, authentic and not humble.
Not humble.
Ooh, now we're talking.
So I saw a fantastic speaker a few years ago.
Thanks.
So bad.
Oh,
his name was David Downs. It wasn't. But, and at the event, she was asked, what can New Zealand do better? And she said, you're all too bloody humble.
Yeah.
And she said, and she was talking about the American market, but she said, if you're trying to break into the American market, being humble will not cut it.
No.
And a lot of this stems from tall poppy syndrome and all that blah, blah. But essentially, but this is where it goes with being authentic, right? I'm not saying shout from the rooftops, you're amazing, when actually you're not.
Yeah.
But you need to be proud when you've actually done something really cool, and then tell everyone you've done something really cool.
Yeah.
Because we are our worst critics, and actually the rest of the world thinks really highly of us most of the time. So we should ourselves be proud of what we achieve and not try and chop each other off at the knees.
Yeah.
So be authentic but not humble.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The analogy I always use on that particular topic is the All Blacks. Very authentic, very respectful, but they're not humble on the field. They as soon as the haka goes out, they go out 100 miles an hour, and that's sort of the mentality we need to lift our game sometimes, is to bring a bit more haka.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My dad would say we need to bring the mongrel out in us and really hustle and, grit our teeth and snarl when it is required. Because that's what's often needed to.
This is stuff that transcends the agritech sector, but this is sort of in general, really. As a country, you've gone very big now. This is the launch of your new political party.
Yeah.
I want to say the mongrel party. That would be
No,
wrong.
no.
No.
It's a whole different topic.
Yeah, but I mean, go back to the sort of role of communications, because I worked at NZTE for 10 years. Now at New Zealand Story, I firmly believe that it's not enough to have a good product.
Yeah.
We do have great products.
Yeah.
It's not even enough to have a good company and a good culture. You've actually got to be able to tell your story.
Yes.
And you've got to be able to do it in a way that sort of compels people to want to be part of that story.
Yeah. Because if no one knows about your product, then
Yeah.
who's going to buy it?
Yeah.
So, and again, we're not talking about massive $1 million marketing.
That's good, because there aren't many of
Budgets.
us that can
Because,
afford them.
most people don't, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think one of the things, and it's a discussion that probably needs to be had, is what are the channels and how are we going to talk? Is it all TikTok and Insta? Or is it, some of the more traditional
Imagine
ones?
in the agritech sector, there's not a lot of TikTok kind of advertising. Is there?
There is not necessarily in New Zealand. I have seen some really great TikToks with vertical farming. So some aero farm type stuff and hydroponics. But that's American, and I love watching them because that's what I'm into, right? And I do watch a lot of TikTok. But, what channels are the ones that are really going to throw in a way that is still authentic, but not humble?
But I guess the point there is knowing the channels is really important, like understanding that there are different channels, different consumers or different audiences will go into different things. LinkedIn's fine for some things. Broadcast media is fine for some things. Going to a field days type show in Ireland is fine. You've got to do a bit of all of it, but actually you've got to think about how those channels tell the story and connect you to your end customers or consumers.
And finding that one champion could actually be well worth the $100,000 that you might spend on Facebook advertising or Google advertising if you found one champion that happens to be really well connected.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they've opened the door to new markets or new customer base that you hadn't even thought of. So, perhaps we need to, instead of thinking about talking to the masses, we look at quality over quantity and talk to the people that will really make a difference in your business.
It's great saying that I heard once, sometimes you have to be a laser beam, not a lantern.
Yeah.
You can try and cast your light everywhere, but actually in advertising and PR and it's not worth it if you can be a laser beam. If you can find, going back to your fantastic tip number 1, create champions that will basically do your job for you. I mean, you clearly are a champion. This company that makes the pig translation software.
Yes, Maxo.
Maxo has clearly done well out of you because you are talking to lots of people on their behalf.
Yeah. And again, it was 2 weeks ago. I've talked to heaps of people. But, if someone else invited me along and blew my mind, I would do exactly the same thing.
That's right.
So
create champions, that was number 1. Number 2, be prepared.
Yeah.
Like a Boy Scout, but be prepared to tell your story. Because there's no point creating demand and then disappointing them when they arrive on your website to find a 404 or a really bad picture of your office or whatever.
Yeah. Or the words mastitis across it. I've seen it. No product, but that's it.
Mastitis, not
coming soon.
Not as sexy as you'd think. Bizarrely, mastitis.
And know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. I know who they are too. And tip number 3 from Kylie here, be authentic, but not humble.
Yeah.
And not humble, but
and
not humble.
Yeah, 100%.
Authenticity.
Yes.
But those things actually all go together, is it? Because you'll create champions on your behalf if they detect your authenticity. It's not just about that you like this company's product. You obviously liked other stuff about them.
I liked the people.
Yeah.
Because they were authentic when they were telling their story. They were so passionate that I could see it straight off the bat.
But then also, as a comms professional, as the growth and transformation manager for agritech New Zealand, you're not going to go and tell their story if you don't think they're up to it. Because so that goes to number 2. Like if they're not prepared, you're not going to send them leads and start.
No, because I also have to be authentic.
Yeah.
I have my own reputation to also manage. So I'm not going to advocate for someone who I don't feel is ready or actually they're, blowing smoke in,
Good news. That's very good. So tell us a little bit. We've got 45 seconds left. What does the next year or two look like for Agritech NZ? Are you excited?
Yes, I'm going to conquer the world and get everyone to join us as a member.
Very good.
Because they should.
If you've got pig translation software,
Yeah.
give her a call.
No. You can talk to Maxo for that, not Agritech New Zealand. And, I think it is just to talk about how amazing the New Zealand Agritech space is and what amazing businesses we have here.
Yeah. And we do. Yeah, and telling the story is so important, which is kind of help me out here. We're going to loop back now to right at the beginning of the session today. We talked about the tech story, see tomorrow first. Mm-hmm. One of the things is, because I know this a little bit, I have a little bit of inside knowledge about the agritech sector, one of the first things they did is create their own story platform, which you still use very well, powered by place. Mm-hmm. The whole concept of New Zealand's agritech being powered by the country that we come from and the people that live here and work here. And then telling that story very consistently. You've been doing it now for 3 years or more at trade shows, et cetera. The power of storytelling is, so important. Yeah,
100%. And look, the place doesn't necessarily have to be New Zealand because New Zealand companies are global.
Yeah.
But it is, it is the place where you resonate with and that helps you.
That's right.
But it's often powered back in New Zealand.
And you don't need to also rely on your own resources. If you're one of those people who is not, tip two, you're not prepared to tell your own story, you're now looking at your website going, ooh, it does need a bit of work. There are plenty of resources to help you. Go on the New Zealand Story website, my website. We go on the See Tomorrow First website, look up Agritech NZ, find the content that you need, the images, the graphics, whatever. Talk to people like Kylie because she's obviously got some great wisdom for you.
Yeah.
And basically, embrace, the support that exists in New Zealand for growing tech companies.
100%.
Any final thoughts? Optimistic for the future?
100%.
Always.
Always, always.
Nice.
Yes.
What hair colour are you when you're not optimistic? Is you like that person out of Harry Potter that changes their hair with their mood?
No. It's actually been green now for about 4 years.
Green.
And before that it was blue.
Full steam ahead.
Yeah.
Green lights.
Yeah, Agritech green, man.
Nice. Very good. Right. Well, that's it. Thank you, Kylie, for helping us finish out the day. Thank you out there for still watching. Mum, thanks. You're probably the only one still watching. But anyway, we appreciate it. It's been a fantastic afternoon. What have we learned about AI, clinical data, deep tech, gaming, storytelling. It's huge. There's so much to this Tech Week. I hope that you are going to get out and about and see some of the amazing events. There's hundreds of them on around the country. I think Graham said earlier 25 or 26 towns and cities around the country have got sessions on, so make sure you go and watch some of those. Learn about the technology sector, get involved. Have an opinion. Tech is here. It's changing faster than we all could believe is possible, but it's also bringing lots of possibilities with that. And again, thank you so much. Thanks to the team from NZ Tech and the whole team who put on Tech Week. It's really a valuable part of our ecosystem. Thanks again for watching. Have a good evening. Ka kite anō.